Hello and welcome everyone. This is Liesl from Artist Palette, and we are live for the butterfly garden painting. Okay, so I have my paint palette here. Primary colors, we always use primary colors with black and white. Phthalo blue, bright yellow, and bright red. For brushes, a detailed brush is good for the butterfly, something pointy, or you can use a round pointy one if you like those ones. And we have just some flat brushes, like something like this, that will get some more crisp lines for a lot of the grass and stuff. You can use the same brush to do the texture and detail on the lavender or the lilac, and you can also use more of a frayed brush here. Here's another example of a nice, it's not really frayed, it's just more of a larger round brush, and it can get some interesting texture, like spongy texture for some of the flowery stuff. Okay, so you can take your time, pause whenever you need to. And we can get started. You can also, just as an option, you can have pre-mixed magenta, purple, or violet for a lot of the flowers too. All right. I am going to start with a larger flat one. I'm going to stick it in my water. And what you can do from here is just get some of the background going. I'm just going to go a little bit closer, actually. There we go. And make one more adjustment. Okay. So you can start with pulling down some white. See, I'm just small touch of water, dip it in the white, and I'm just pulling it down, kind of rounded, so that instead of just straight up and down, it's just slightly curved in the middle, a little bit more straight, and then curved inward. See, like brackets here. Go about halfway down. So this is my 8x10 canvas. And then I'm just going to start with light colors and work my way to darker colors. So you can change the colors to your favorite and whatever it is you want to do. I am pulling white to the side, so you can see that I've pulled white to the side. Small touch of yellow. These light yellow. And I added a tiny little dot of red, so it goes like golden yellow. Kind of peachy, creamy. I think it's nice. I like it. I'm going to start towards the bottom, not the very bottom. And you can see I'm just using the thin side to lightly get, like practice grass, just some highlights in here, very close to the top. And it just blends with that white that you just placed. So it like really fades. It's hard to see before we add more contrast, but this is going to add some nice gradients, like light to dark, and build onto the contrast and the layering into our painting. So you can see I just mostly filled it in towards the bottom, but a lot of those streaks are kind of flicking upwards, more individualized with the brush strokes showing. If you want, you can always add a touch more yellow and red for a bit more of an orangey color. Maybe just a little bit of red, mostly yellow. Just a couple dots at a time until you're happy with it. Maybe wipe off a little extra paint because it might be really dark, but you can get a couple extra strands that are a bit more obvious. Light little curves on the sides, almost like brackets. Just a little accent of color, pop of orange, a bit darker, but not as much as I did of just light golden yellow. Okay, washing it off. Okay, a little tap on the napkin to dry it. So from here, my like periwinkle blue, the light soft blue, kind of purpley. You can put a bit more purple if you want. It's a good idea to wait for a lot of this yellow to dry. So you might want to just wait a couple minutes for that. But in the meantime, I'm adding in a couple of pink and peachy colors kind of towards the middle in the bottom in here. It kind of pokes through just behind all of this nice dark bluey grass. All right. So pink, pretty easy. Red, a little bit of white. Actually, a bunch of white. So I didn't go hot pink. Everything is kind of pastel-y, softer. You can add a small touch of your orange if you like the coral vibe that softens it a bit more, a little bit more peachy. And I think I'm just going to flick it upwards. On the side. A little bit short little ones at the bottom in the middle. You can add a bit more yellow into it if you want a touch more of that peach. There, so you can see so it's like a little bit of white just at the top. Then it goes to a very, very light yellow, almost touching the top, so it's not too much empty space with white. Then it goes to a bit of orange and some pink, peaches. You can always add more in at the end if you think you lost some of it, so not a big deal. Alrighty. Wash it, dab it dry. I'm going to wait 30 seconds before I start that periwinkle blue, so you can wave it around, let it dry quicker. Okay, that's mostly dry. Once I get more grass and stuff into here, it, I think, makes it easier to see how it's coming along and if you want to change things around. Okay, now to start the more periwinkle blue or like a softer cerulean, something like that, I am taking, you can take the same brush, blue, it's too vibrant just like that, white, big scoop of white. So I'm going to start off a bit lighter here. So it's more of a light blue. And then what makes it nice and soft is that red. Not as much red as you took of blue. You can take almost equal parts, but it's your preference. So you can see it still looks pretty much like blue, not too purple. And that's the soft blue that I'm going for. You add a bit more red if you like it slightly on the purple side. Okay, and then I'm going to take a little scoop of white. See how over here, almost on my brush, I'm just going to lighten it up with whatever's on my brush, and it just goes lighter. Flatten my brush a bit. Okay, and then we're going to start not at the very, very bottom, but close to it, just below what we already have. I'm just starting to get the shape of what I want, which is curved inwards a little bit more on the left. I did a little bit higher. Slight bends. A lot of it filled in at the bottom. So they don't all have to be like a staircase where it's gradually perfectly going up one by one. Some can be a little bit taller here and there, some a little bit shorter. Just washing that off. And I found like a good trick is to, you can actually use a smaller round brush, or you can use the same brush if you think it's working great. Just like a little bit of white. So that's way too much. Just a little bit of white to soften the ends, just like that. A little bit of white makes it look like it's kind of more glowy and lighter at the tips of all your little grass strands. Small touch of water is okay. Unless it's really drippy, no more water. It just lightens a little bit at the top and looks a bit more faded, like a out of focus feel. I'm going to keep using this round pointy brush, so it can be a detail brush and a middle round brush at the same time. Even though I have a bigger one and it does pretty much the same thing. So you can use either or. Touch of water, and I'm just going to build onto the color. So I'm going to go a bit darker. So this is darker, but maybe I'll just go a smidge darker. Or yeah, just a smidge darker. A few shades darker here. Twirling my brush into the paint. Twirl, keep it a little bit pointy on the end. Going to the bottom. And now I can flick upwards, basically fill the bottom before I go even darker. So maybe a few less strands flicking up overall because we already have a lot. And this is more just to get in some shadow, darker pieces. And just down here, I'm kind of doing like little strands, just all grouped together, overlapping. Lightly flick and pull away. Follow the same groove where it's kind of folding in a little bit. So light little dabs and shorter pieces down here. Like it's just like almost like you're parting hair in a way. You're just kind of flicking it this way, flicking it that way, dabbing it in the middle. Okay. We're getting somewhere. Looks good. Almost has like a fiery feel to it. All right, and then I just washed it off again. I'm going to add some extra, so even darker color. Same color, but no white at the bottom, but I'm just going to let it sit for a minute. And then in the meantime, you can do touch-ups or you can add in, excuse me, more things. For example, you can put in, I haven't done like the tealish green yet for some of the leafy bits, but you can do a couple strands if you like. Tiny dot of yellow, blue, so scoop of blue, tiny dot or two of yellow, and you just add in a scoop of white to it. You get a light teal, kind of like a aqua sort of color. And you can just kind of go along the tops, lightly flick and break up some of the pieces at the tops of your grass if you want to accent more that dark to light. So it's a nice light color, and it really breaks up some of this periwinkle blue or the cerulean blue. You can add more pink in here. Maybe I'll put a little bit extra pink. A couple of extra pink strands. Just using my finger to pull down some and blend it out if you need to do that. Oh. All right, just waiting a few more seconds, like 30 seconds is good. I'm going to do a dark coat, so really dark at the bottom. And then we're going to put in a bunch of our minty green, any green, teal, green kind of stuff to start some leafy grass strands and also stem that might be coming up for our flowers. I'm going to use the same round pointy brush. Just going to wave it around for a few seconds. All right. All right, so that means in your blue, so pull to the side, blue and red, almost equal parts, and that's all you need. It's going to go really dark. It doesn't go purple. It's still very much blue, but a deep indigo blue. You can see we got super dark. You can also add in the tiniest little touch of black if you want it even darker. So for people who are kind of more dark souls, that's good. That adds a punch of color. Just really sweeping it up. Not going as high, so you're just a little bit lower overall. Short little streaks, grass strands, little dabs even in the middle here. So it looks like it's just parting off into the middle or just onto the side. Okay, there we go. Washing it off. So if you like teal, you want to put some more teal strands of the greenery, you can do that. You can do more minty green, so it's another little touch of yellow in with your teal. And it goes minty green. See this? More of a minty green. I like it. You can even add grass strands just in with the mix if you like to. Yeah, I added a couple extra into the middle. But anyways, I'm going to use this. Start with, let's see, mostly making some leafy bits. So for example, maybe I'll have a flower right here, just at the bottom. And then next to it, I'm just going to tap, do some little commas or dabs, almost like leaves, a bit more abstractly on the side. And then I'm going to, on the end of this somewhere, I'm going to make a flower. You can change your greens. So I'll show you different greens. You can do more blue, touch of yellow, no more white, just go darker, right? So no more white, you go darker, blue, yellow, keeping it teal or minty green or forest green. We'll twirl the brush to get some of the extra paint off and keep it pointy on the end. It doesn't have to be perfectly placed. You don't need a consistent line everywhere. You can do a little streak there, right here, kind of cutting in. Like it's going, sometimes it doesn't have to go with the grain all the time. I did a couple strands. Also, what's really nice is a couple purple strands. Maybe not purple, but your periwinkle blue. Remember that we used that color where we had blue, red, and some white in the background before we went to really dark blue at the bottom. So I just put a couple extra strands here. So it looks like your flowers in the background, they're not like super dark and just a total eyesore, you know? Like that one I just did there, but we're just, oh, the butterfly's going to be there. We're just going to wipe a little bit of it off so that it's, again, not that eyesore. You're just drawn to it for some reason. There. Now it's not as obvious. See, it's more faded in the background. Perfect. Okay, so I have a whole bunch. You can see some of them are curving in a little extra just to give more, instead of it all perfectly kind of spread out and placed, some grass goes a little bit more inward instead of out that way. Okay, and in terms of the leaves for all this, you can do them after your flowers just so that when you're placing them, it makes more sense how you're placing it. But I showed you some examples down here. Light little commas or flicks or just a little tap with your round brush, and it gives you a nice variety of leafy angles. So some of them are curved, some of them are more face-on, some of them are bent this way and that way, and it just looks more like it's sitting in nature and realistic. I'm going to, you can use this frayed flat brush. You have one of those or just a round brush, and you can just lightly tap with the tip of your round brush. Let's start with this one. Let's take a familiar color that we've just been using, so it's not too much of a difference. More up into the open area. You can also practice down in the dark area, so if you don't like it, you paint over it. In the open area, it's hard to change. I'm starting with some pink because I used pink for some of my grass pieces, and maybe I'm just going to randomly pick a strand, even if it's a strand I didn't make. Light tap, like you're making, let's go way closer. We're going to lightly tap, go a little bit wider towards the bottom, like a cone shape. And then you have the start. See, it's a distant, faded in the background flower. Let's go darker so you can see it better. I'm going to switch to my periwinkle blue, that light color. Let's just do one here, for example, light little taps. You can use the corner of the brush too if it's too much. Light little taps, a little bit wider, so you're making a cone shape or a very thin triangular isosceles shape. There. Very spongy, not totally filled in. It can be a little bit gapped sometimes in between some of the spaces. Let's see, let's do some light teal, some white with a little bit of our teal, because I have some very light teal or minty green ones. I used a lot of the same sort of similar colors. A couple in the middle here. Looks like this one's a really thick piece. So if you have something like that, you can break it up quite easily. It's light yellow, light pink, light orange, anything light, like creamy color. And just not as like, okay, why is there a big thick strand there? And you can just touch up on the tops too. Okay, so I'll show you with a round brush. I'm doing the same technique. Let's just do blue and white, and a touch of white, blue, and a touch of white. It's just more of a medium sky blue. Yeah. Wiping off a little extra paint. It little taps into a cone shape. Light little just direction, the line coming down. Keep the ends really thin, don't touch it again, and then a little bit more rounded, cone-like at the bottom. Just a little bit wider. I'm going to show you some purple. So big scoop of red, little bit of blue. So now we're making purple, unless you have purple and you want to use that. Touch of white. It can vary with the purple. So I encourage you to just, this is my purple here, pretty dark with a little bit of white. I encourage you to change your purples as you go. So there's magenta here. It's like a pink with the tiniest speck of blue. I'm starting with this one. And we're just going to place it. Maybe, see, sometimes, again, like I said, it's not even really on a grass strand. You're just placing it a bit more randomly. And then you can add the grass strands after with the leaves. But since this is darker, I'm not going to just put it up here so it's so obvious. Okay, let's add a bit more white so that I can place it out in the open without it being so dark. Maybe up here. I'm just going to add a bit more white. Light little taps. You could also use a Q-tip for this if you want to feel like fancy and doing something pretty cool. Cool technique. Did a couple on this side. These colors that you're mixing, I would keep them on the side. I would save them. Why? For example, for your pink one, you can use a bit of your light purple and accent a little bit on the side. Now you have texture. All right. Then, for say blue ones, you can do a highlight, like a lighter blue, lighter teal. Doesn't even have to match the color. Couple little dots on the side, or throughout the middle of it. Darker ones, you can do a magenta, red with a touch of blue, touch of white. So it's almost like a hot pink. But it's got a little tiny hint of blue in there. Right on the side, a couple little dabs. I'm going to do a couple sort of magenta ones, even off page, so there's life on the canvas. You can accent with a dark purple, so blue, or just blue and a little bit of red. All right, let's pull it up a bit closer. And from far away, it just comes together with that texture. The ones in the middle, the teal, you can just highlight with white because it's supposed to be light in the middle. And white, see, just have a little dabs coming up the middle. I'm just highlighting some of my purple ones with teal for just for fun. I think it's nice. Use light purple. I put some teal on the side. I like it. I think it looks good. Let's do just a couple more flowers. I did it heavier on the left than I did on the right. I'm gonna do just picking my like whatever I think it needs more balance of. Maybe a couple more pink ones. Maybe a little bit of a hot pink. A bit more obvious. And let's see, maybe another like purpley one off to the side here. But just going back to my existing colors. Just kind of randomly choosing a little bit what to highlight it with. Sometimes just taking what's on your brush, adding white, and adding a highlight. So I just used this dark color, I added white, and now it's a highlighted light color on the left side of it. You can also just take red if you want to do an accent and just do a darker color. And even over here, you can just take some hot pink or magenta, add in extra colors into your existing ones. It's as much work as you want to put into it. It'll look great either way. Okay, so I'm just going to work on my stems and maybe add some baby's breath, like those little white dots there, just with different greens. You can also do dark blue, so like a dark teal, blue, tiny touch of yellow and just no white, or just add blue and a tiny touch of yellow into your existing teal. It goes darker. And stuff like this can accent some of the stems on some of your flowers wherever need be, or just adding new stems, for example, and just lightly tapping in between. Little taps, not going too high up, leaving the darker colors in the dark section and the lighter colors in the light section. So if I add white to this color, it goes a bit more of a lighter teal, blue teal. And I can just add some stems onto extra flowers. Add a couple of dabs down here into the mix. Just like adding a little, sort of line, like a curved line, some dabs to make it look like it's all flowing together. I'm going to add more yellow. Now it is definitely green. And just add some light little taps and touches on some of the sides. I'm going to add more white. Just took white. It's a very light green. See how it's not as dark overall. Lightly tap underneath the flowers, give it a leafy look. Tap along some of the stems. Hard to know when to stop too. I'll show you closer so you can see just how random and blobby it is overall. Pull it back, and it looks like you got lots of leafy bits. I'm going to add in some sort of baby's breath, just some white on the same round brush, and you can group together almost like you're making a flower, but you see just adding a couple dots kind of grouped together, pretty close together. Baby's breath, that looks like baby's breath. Just following a stem, not so perfect. We're just highlighting some of your flowers. Cool. Okay. Let's add some butterflies. Oh, some sort of detailed brush. I'm going to start with this one up here. What I'll do is I'll start with like a light sort of blue, gray blue, can be any color you want ultimately. White, touch of blue, tiny speck of black, or you can add red if you like the periwinkle. All right, and then what I'm going to do here is first I'm going to just follow it on the side. I kind of want it around here. You can have it on something or just wherever. I'm going to do a soft little curve like that. So it's like the tail, the back wing, and then a little bit up the head. So that means at the top, I'm going to do a little loop, but a very thin oval loop, very pointy. You can do it rounder or more pointy like me, so you can see it's pretty pointy. And then just slightly overlapping that, a longer, pointier seed shape. And roughly fill that in. Very rough, not like perfect. And then on the back, so the long extra bit, I'm just going to make a little bit of a flare, a little bit of a bump into a point. Fill that in. You have a start of a butterfly. I mean, much bigger here. It's easier to see. You can also go smaller. I'm going to add in more blue, touch of black. All right, and then you can outline very carefully. Not as perfect either. The wings. So this one, this wing, this bigger one is overlapping the one behind it. So you can only see a little bit of an outline on the back. And outline the bottom here. And just a little bit on the back part. I did a couple streaks coming from the middle. So it looks like the pattern on it's got a little bit dark towards the body and then it fades to much lighter on the outsides. So I did that. Wash it off. You can also just take white after you wash it off and light little dots on the ends. Almost like a monarch sort of vibe there, but not the same colors. It looks like it's going from dark to light, and it's got some interest. Not just a one-tone butterfly color. Okay, take black. Then put a little body just on the upper part. Little head sticking just a little bit out. You can do little flicks for antennas. Press a little bit harder in the body for, more of a body. And there's your butterfly. Okay, a bit closer. And pulling away. Take a few steps back, admire your painting. You can add as many butterflies as you like. So you can do the same thing over here. You can do the exact same thing. It doesn't have to be as open. It can be more closed. So I'll just do it again. And then I'll do the open face butterfly. Switch up your color if you like, or use the same one. Let's do it right around here. It can be like touching a flower or something. So a little bit of a line for the bottom wing, and then the top of this line I'm going to do small thin oval shape depending on how pointy you want to go, and then a little bit longer seed shape. A little flare, a little bump, and a little flick for a point at the bottom. It's harder to see on top of what's already kind of like a lot of grass pieces and stuff. Fill it in. Take dark blue or any other color. Just give this gentle outline. Doesn't have to be all the way through. Same thing I did here. Take the blue. You can streak an extra blue right close to the body for some darkness. Or maybe switch it up to red or purple. Taking white. You can fill in or do dots. Pull in white from the tips towards the center. And then do the black thin line, or not as thin, just a little bit bulky. Still pretty thin overall, like a little dot for the head, or just a little, tiny little speck for the head, a little line along the side of the body here. A couple antennas if you want to. Okay, there's my second butterfly. It's not as obvious as the one up here. This is more of the focus point. Okay, and then I'll do the more open face one. So that can vary in different shapes and stuff. You can do your favorite. You can even plop in a monarch if you want that to be your focus. I am going to do the same color, kind of like a gray blue again. And you can place it wherever you want. So like right here, for example, I did a thin line in the middle. And then you can just do a little bit of like a seed shape for the wings on each side. And then something more rounded and a little tiny flick at the bottom. Almost like a starfish. And then, like I've done before, you can do an outline, or you don't have to do an outline. You can just kind of do it so that it's mostly just white. Just like little flicks. Like they have these tiny, soft, little bitty feathery things that are so delicate. The little flicks. Okay, and then a little bit of black inside the middle of the body. A little touch up here, a little blob in the middle. If you want, you can do more of an outline with the body like I've done everywhere else. Do little flicks coming out from the center of the dark color. Optional. There, I did 3. You can also just stick with 1. And that should be it. You can sign your painting when you feel like you're done. Thanks for painting along with me. I love seeing results. So you can go to Artist Palette Durham on Facebook under the Artist Palette Drawing and Painting Support Group, basically just showing off what you've done, showing us your interpretation or changes you've made. Also ask questions. And yeah, maybe you'll paint along with me again soon. Lots of paintings. We do tons of it. Lots of different themes. So subscribe to our channel if you want to keep seeing more. And thank you guys. Bye.